So what will you do when you go back home? You've been travelling for 2 years now, or at least in Australia, for Queensland for 2 years. And
just 1 year in Queensland, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, my apologies. All right, so what do you do when you go back home?
Actually about to make a decision now. First of all, I'm in Australia for 8-9 months now, and I still haven't learned to surf. So my little brother, if I don't come back home with a surfboard and a tan, he won't accept me. So before everything, I'll take a couple of weeks in Byron Bay and surf. When I go back home, it's a good question. First of all, I think I'd like just to be home. I mean, home is a word that you only really understand when you're far from it. So just enjoying seeing the friends, eating the food, being with the family. Afterwards, I'll probably go back to uni or kind of pursue the dreams that I nurtured for the last couple of years.
When you go back home, you'll be on land that Palestinian people think is their home. How do you feel knowing that someone else thinks that you are living in their home? You've taken their home or taken their land. What goes on in your heart or your mind when you think about that?
First of all, what they're feeling is based on a lot of miseducation. You see the pictures of how people grow up and the information they're being fed. I think that everyone who would read would understand that there has been Jewish people living in Israel throughout the 80s. I mean, the first people on the land of Israel were Jewish, and it kind of kept on after being exiled by Nebuchadnezzar and. So people from...
That's a very long history you're talking
about. A very long history.
Like an 4,000-year history almost.
Yep. And so obviously if the Jews were exiled for 2,000 years and then they come back, so people would feel bitter about it. But, I mean, it's understood that there's a pretty wide agreement within Israel about the solution for the conflict. And everyone with some common sense understand that this two-state solution is probably where we're all heading, and hopefully this will bring end to every side's demands and friction.
So there's a hope that the two-state solution will reduce the friction between Palestinians and Israeli people.
Yeah. That's I think Obama said that, and the Cohen government now acknowledges that as well, and that's the way everyone is going for the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it's a matter of time, but I think that's what will happen in the end. At least I'm hopeful that this would be the answer.
Do you ever feel have that feeling that someone else believes that you're living in their land?
No, I never had that feeling.
Okay. You have been here for a while now. What's your impressions of Australia? What impressions of this place do you take back home to Israel?
I've noticed that the biggest difference I've noticed is that Australians celebrate themselves and their culture constantly. I mean, from watching the news in Australia, I get kind of an uplifting sensation. I feel that Australians love being Australians. They're very happy. The climate on the street is... People are smiling constantly, and "good day, mate" is probably the best 2 words I know in English. It's fun. The atmosphere on the street is very loose, very calm.
So what would you tell people about Australia when back home in Israel? When they say, "Tal, welcome home. Where have you been? What have you been doing?"
What have I been doing? First of all, I was enjoying some of the world's prettiest scenery. I've met some extraordinary people. Lived a year in a land that you have so much room to grow. I mean, not just physical, geographical space, but people are very, very warm, very accepting. There's a lot of room for self-improvement, self-involvement in kind of dig into yourself. A lot of my steps were done through Australian music, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I went to the Byron Bay Blues Fest a couple of months ago.
Okay.
I was exposed to some extraordinary artists. I mean, I saw Xavier Rad on stage, and I was blown away. It kind of changed everything I think about Australian culture.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is so pure, so amazing.
He's an amazing artist. It's a contrast, isn't it? Australia is so big, so vast, largely empty. Israel takes up, 1% of the Middle East landmass? It's only, 800 kilometres from end to end or something?
Yeah, well, just to give Australians a perspective, Israel can fit in Tasmania over 3 times.
Israel can fit into Tasmania 3 times?
Yeah,
over 3 times?
Over 3 times, yeah.
What a contrast.
Well, from one hand, it is a contrast because the size is just... Australia is too big to comprehend, and Israel is so small that within an hour and a half drive, you can get practically anywhere. But, I mean... 70% of Australia is a desert, and over 60% of Israel is a desert as well. Both have problem with rainfall. A lot of, Australia is a cultural gap. It's a country that bridges cultural gaps, and so in Israel, a lot of immigrants, people from different backgrounds. So there are more similarities than there are differences, if you'll ask me.
So Israel's a very multicultural.
Oh yeah. I mean, from my family, I got my grandparents from my mother's side came from Libya, that's northern Africa. My father's side is from Iraq. They fled because of Saddam Hussein's regime.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all of my friends, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, the United States. I have an Australian friend back home.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a surprise. Does it ever make you feel jealous about the space that's in Australia and the compactness of the Middle East and Israel?
Well, it doesn't make me feel jealous because if I wanna feel alone in Israel, I know exactly what to go to enjoy a beautiful night sky in the desert.
Right.
But sometimes when you see that you can just drive one road and it won't end for the next 5,000 kilometers, kind of the space gives you a greater sense of freedom, something that's harder to find in Israel.
Okay. You're a pretty fit bloke. You did a solo cycling trip around Ireland and Scotland not that long back. You also completed a 60k run in Israel to commemorate the 60th anniversary. Tell me about that. What did you do? Why was that 60th anniversary so important?
Well, the 60th anniversary, it's important because it's a round number, but for me, I just came back from that cycling trip, and I saw a good friend of mine who was bigger than me. I was always faster than him, always. And we went we have a race in Ra'anana, an annual race, and for the first time in my life, he ran faster than I did. And the guy was weighing about over 100 kilo when he left the army. And all of a sudden, after 3 kilometers, I saw nothing of him. And I said, whatever this guy did, I want to do as well. So he hooked me up with his running team. I got a coach, and we had to set a goal. He told me what's the Tiberias Marathon was too close for me to be prepared. So he said, how about doing something a bit more extreme? How about doing a 60k run? And I said, yeah, why not? I'm not busy at the moment. And started.
You're a fitness fanatic, you could tell.
I wasn't a fitness fanatic then. I was experiencing, you can say.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. So you did the 60th. So you did the 60-kilometer run for the 60th anniversary of Israel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Still recovering, I think.
Okay. What was it like to be in Israel for the 60th anniversary?
Well, mixed emotions, like a lot of things in Israel. It's happiness and sadness. I mean, there's always tension in the air. There was just the Second Lebanon War ended just a couple of months before that, and the future looked a bit grim with fire over the settlements in the south and stuff like that. People are happy to be in Israel. It's unbelievable that a country like Israel exists for 60 years. I mean, through everything, the wars, so many reasons could bring Israel to an early end, and 60 years. That's a big number for us.
Mm. You've travelled a fair bit of the world already, and you're only 24. You've served in the IDF. You've acted or are acting as an emissary, a cultural emissary to different parts around the world. Is there any other place in the world you would love or like to live if you couldn't live in Israel?
If I couldn't live in Israel?
Yes.
Why couldn't I live in Israel?
Oh, no, it's a hypothetical question.
Oh, a hypothetical question. Well, if hypothetically I couldn't live in Israel...
where else in the world would you like to live if you had a choice?
Well, when I was cycling through Ireland, I found there was a short strip of land in the western coast of Ireland that I found unbelievably enchanting. It was beautiful. It was kind of powerful. And I guess that if not Israel, then from the places I've been, it would be Ireland is out of the question because of the weather. I mean, maybe it's a country that only opened about 3 months a year. The rest is very hard to live. So I guess Australia would be. I mean, Australia is plentiful. It's beautiful, room for growth.
Mm.